Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I'm really, really excited for this conversation on body politics, movement practices, with a dash, probably more than a dash, of colonial history in there as well. So because I believe in giving people their flowers, first I'm going to welcome to the stage Kelechi. Kelechi is an author, actor, director and public speaker, a highly skilled pole and twerk fitness instructor, a host of the Say Your Mind podcast and many, many other things, which I'm sure she's going to tell us about. Kelechi, come join us. Thank you. And then next to the stage is award-winning choreographer Mamela Nyamza. Mamela is a dancer, choreographer, director and performing artist who is trained in ballet, modern and African dance styles. She's won many accolades for her activism-focused creations. Hatched Ensemble is on here tonight at the Barbican and for 4 nights in total. This work continues her explorations which unapologetically demystify and deconstruct the history of dance, interrogating the accepted norms of the classics. Please welcome Mamela to the stage. So just to start, I'd like to invite you both to put yourself in context, really. So could you just say a few words about your movement practice and how or whether you feel it's related to this question of body politics? Kelechi.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting when you, I don't know if you come across it, but you speak with colleagues that you work with and they say, oh, you can find me on social media, don't worry, I don't talk politics, I don't do politics. And it's interesting that we think that we don't do it, like it's something that we participate in actively. I mean, we could participate in it actively, but it still happens to us whether we like it or not. And so I think our bodies are also part of that politic, right? And I think being a black woman, being seen as a black woman in society means that people have already inferred certain things, means that from the moment that you kind of agreed, become complicit in that this is the way that you are seen, you're subjected to certain things. And so even how I came about teaching twerk and teaching pole dance, it only really happened because of the way that I've seen black women's bodies treated historically. So when I was asked to start teaching twerk classes at a white-owned studio in central London, a pole studio, they just literally looked at me and go, and they said, you should be able to teach twerk. Right. I said, but what if I have no rhythm? You don't know that. Yeah. Right, but they were like, you should be able to, and I said, I don't know about twerk with a capital T, but this is what I teach, right? And so I started merging West African dance with, you know, what we see as quintessential twerk and bringing them together. And I remember the classes became so popular at that studio that then we added on an extra class. I was still being paid the same hourly rate, but they were making lots more revenue because these classes were so popular. And I remember them saying to me, maybe we should change the title of it to African twerk or something, because it's just not feeling very Miley Cyrus. And a lot was happening in that statement. Like my head was spinning from like, I just, where do I begin with what you just said? And so that's constantly what I came up against. I remember there's a particular move in pole dance called a cupid, where you're basically kind of like perpendicular to the pole. So you're standing with one foot and then the other foot you're hooking, or the other leg you're hooking yourself onto the pole with the knee. And I remember a white teacher saying to another teacher who happened to be a black woman, and she said to her, oh, you can't do that move really. I just think black people just don't get the move. Wow. And from then I thought, well, no, because biomechanics, why wouldn't she be able to get it? What is she not doing? What does she need help with? Lo and behold, and I'd only been learning pole for a while at this point, I was able to help her get into the move. But I just thought, is that what you do? You enter into the space and you say, you're not going to be able to do that because look at you. So that brought me to the point where I ended up opening my own studio, because I didn't want anybody that was on a journey of exploration, especially in a society that tries to deny them access and autonomy and agency over their own bodies, to walk into a space and be told, you're not going to be able to do that because I've said so or I believe so. So it's out of necessity that I opened my pole dance studio. It's out of necessity that I continue to leave my house and walk down the street every day, because I think that there is an importance for me to be here in my physical body and to be part of the kind of collective consciousness.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much to that. We'll return back to. Thank you, Kelechi. Mamela, how about you? How would you like to today just like land yourself in this space and tell us a bit more about your practice as it relates to body politics?
Hello, everyone. My practice started when I was actually invited to be a performer by a white director at home in South Africa. And I refused to dance the way they wanted me to dance. And then they asked me, "God, if you don't want to do this thing, you're not going to get a job." So I was like, do I actually refuse this job because I need it? Or do I dance the way they want me to dance? And then I'm like, actually, I'm going to leave the job. Because I got tired of doing the same styles, same movement. It was just like the same kind of vocabulary as a dancer. I mean, that was in the early 2000s, from the late 90s. So I was like, I don't want to dance like this. I just want to move like my grandmother. I want to move like my mom. I want to move like the way we move at home. I mean, I was a good dancer. Don't get me wrong. It's just that I did not want to dance that way. You know, like it's like sometimes there are things that you feel like, do I still want my body to dance like this? You know? Or do I want a different way? Because sometimes back in the 80s and 90s, where dancers who could just like kick legs, do like all this kind of stuff. So I got bored because I realized that everybody who wanted to customize the dance, they wanted to lift legs, they wanted to do this. My body was not challenged. So, and then I was like, okay, you know what, I don't want to do this. I even said, I want to walk the same way my grandmother walks when she's coming back from work. And then she was like, you're going to walk when others are dance? I said, yes, let them dance. I'll just walk around and I will make that walk 30 minutes long. So, and then instead of actually being fired, I ended up doing that movement of watching. And from that moment, I realized that I actually want to create my own work and actually create what I want to create rather than actually being conformed to what has been done. Because if I'm watching, it's the same thing, different costume, different music. It's the same thing, it's just facing different ways, starting different way, start this way, ends this. So I got tired of all of that. And then since then, that's when I started my own kind of, I can't say it's my own vocabulary, it's just movement. Movement is actually movement that people do every day, people that you see, because I would observe how people do things. I would observe my grandfather, I would observe my cousin, I would observe my sister, and I would actually take those on stage. And that's how I actually started doing my own movement in terms of practice. And that became a way of actually using real time, because I like to use real time on stage. So I did not mind that people are gonna be annoyed, because I feel like life is annoying sometimes. It's not all just beautiful and everything. So let's just kind of follow this timing, you know, because I don't want to move like I don't have a feeling. I want to move with a feeling. I want to move with my body telling me what to do, my body with my voice as well. Also, when I'm talking about the body, I'm talking about whole kind of organs and everything that is actually attached to the body. So I move with everybody. Sometimes it will be the voice kind of provoking a movement, or the movement provoking the voice, all of that. So yeah, that's how I actually decided to have my own practice and actually do my own works. And it was hard because nobody wanted to do what I'm doing. Everybody was saying I'm killing dance because I'm not moving the way everybody else moves.
That's beautiful, thank you. I love how very quickly you've both landed on this this piece around the body as resistance, actually, and how the act of movement can challenge history, can challenge stereotypes, can challenge, you know, I think that's beautiful. So I guess the question I'd like to ask them is whether or not, is it too far to say, I know what I believe, but is it too far to say that the body can become, particularly movement and dance, can become a tool for decolonisation?
I think it comes down to who are we dancing for, and why do we dance? You know, and I think that is where our decolonial practice begins, because I think about Khalil Gibran saying in The Prophet that, you know, these laws, it's fine if you wipe the laws off the walls and you're like, we're no longer going to abide by them. But if the throne of the oppressor is still erect and it's in your psyche, then it doesn't matter what you've wiped off externally, you are still living with that. And so we talk about decolonial practices, and I think that we can't dance around talking about white supremacy, right? And so I posted earlier today about Bell Hooks saying that she moved away prior to passing away, she moved away from talking about racism and started talking about white supremacy specifically, because that can be practiced even when white-skinned people are not around. And so when I think about, for instance, Nigeria, which is where I come from, where I was born, I think about movement, I think about, you know, the theatres and the stages that they have, and in order to perform what they see as a high level of dance, it is to emulate what they see in terms of whiteness. Not everywhere, but, you know, that's what's likely to get the funding, that's what's likely to get, you know, the big venues and things like that. So when we are looking at each other, like, what is it that we're trying to see? Have we actually dealt with the colonial mindsets with ourselves internally to know that, to enjoy something that doesn't look the way that we are told it should look? And it's how our bodies are viewed, as, you know, our bodies are viewed as well. I think about, where does dance start? When we're talking about dance and movement, where does it actually start? Because our bodies have been, I know that we're saying specifically dance, but if we're talking about resistance and decolonizing, I think about Lumumba, I think about Nkrumah, I think about not just the men, but like women who have been out there with their bodies resisting, physically resisting colonial practices, and what happened to them as a result of that. Those same movements that they did in order to resist whatever they might be, those movements, we still use them. So I guess, like I said, just walking, being out, that is also saying I'm still showing up. And so yeah, even when it came to things like twerk and pole dance, it's always hard, because you have to ask yourself, well, if my leg doesn't come up here when I pole, does that mean I'm not a great pole dancer because I haven't showed you this level of flexibility that we see as synonymous with white Russian pole dancers and things like that? Like, who am I dancing for? And if I'm dancing for self, if I'm dancing for healing, and if I'm dancing for those who have the ability to see me because they've awoken, then I can dance however I want to. They'll understand the story that I'm telling. But if I'm still insistent that I must dance for those who are committed to not seeing me, to not accepting that I exist, then I just won't exist. Nothing I do will ever be good enough.
Yeah. Exactly, nothing. You won't exist however much you try, because they are so invested in visibilizing you and your body. Yes, beautiful. Thank you.
I think coming from South Africa, we actually also have the same problem. I don't know if it's a problem or not, but because sometimes they are whom are we dancing for. And also, if you don't actually dance a specific way, you're not going to get to perform in a specific theatre. You're not going to get to perform for most of the audience. It will be a specific audience if you just do it in a dingy theatre, in a dingy corner. You know, then you can do whatever you want. But then in those other theatres, it's restricted, because you are not doing what they have taught you, because they want you to do exactly what they have taught you. Yeah, I come from South Africa. We did ballet, you know, and it's something that is huge in South Africa. Many black girls, young girls, men, young boys, everybody did ballet. I mean, I did it in the 80s. So in the 80s, it was actually still very taboo. Nobody knew it at home. So I don't know what I was getting myself into. But because I was young, just going there naively, I realized, oh my God, it was not for me. But I did it. And I loved it as a child. But then growing older, I had a love and hate relationship with it, because it did not accept my body. And because of that, I realized that I would never actually perform these roles, because, first of all, so many body politics that actually don't fit the norm of ballet back then. And it was worse back then, because even in class, I mean, in Gugulet, we were all like kids, but then when we went into institutions, everything changed. You realize that I'm different. I'm the other. I feel like the ugly, you know. So all of that, those are the questions that were coming, not in a bad way. You just feel like you don't feel comfortable. you're reserved, you're losing self-esteem, you are even told that you need to lose weight. It's like nothing works, you know? So it was actually quite tough. And also even in theaters at home. I mean, from ballet, you need to go to contemporary. Even in contemporary, you still have to dance a specific contemporary, not your own contemporary, because what is contemporary, you know, today? Because we can go to contemporary, think it's contemporary, but to them it's still not contemporary. Those who have taught us. When I'm saying those who have taught us, I will say because we've been taught by white people at home. And then also, we have also became teachers. Now we are also teaching that to the next generation. So if we are also not changing, who is going to change? So it's actually being given to us and we're also giving it to them. It becomes the same kind of technique, and also it becomes like, oh, you've done this better technique. You've taught by so and so who went to London, who went to USA, who went to Europe. You know, going to Europe or going to London or wherever, UK, it's like seen as something that is prestigious. So you go back home, you teach the same medicine that was actually given to you at home, but now it's better because it comes from London. Then when it comes home, it's much like, wow, I want to learn that technique. Forget about what we have at home. So this is actually something that has been happening for generations and generations and generations, and also it's still accepted in the theaters. So I mean, at home, I'm not performing in the theater like the Barbican. I haven't, you know. I mean, the work that I'm performing here, it's actually been performed in huge stages around the world, not at home.
Wow.
No, even in my hometown, I've not performed it. Yes, because I don't know, it's a lot of things, political, it's resources, it's funding, because also it's like a huge cast, it's many things. But other things is just also, who am I to do this class, to actually create this work, you know, the way I want to create it. Why am I not just doing something I can dance? Because some who came to watch and said, oh, I didn't expect them to move, like I wish they danced more. Because again, there's expectations of the black body on stage to actually dance the way the people expect us to dance. We cannot shift the gaze because we are just seen as exotic everywhere we go. We are not seen as artists. We are always exotic.
If we can't shift the gaze, how do you in your work confront the gaze?
Well, by being here, we are confronting the gaze. You know, by being here, we are confronting the gaze because we are actually kind of refusing to do exactly the things that we're taught to our bodies. And also the bodies that like for instance, the bodies that we're teaching, it was hard to undo what they know. Because at the same time, it was actually going back to basic standards of just being yourselves, being you, and actually having an internal integrity, not just about being outside, beautiful in the outside, but actually beautiful in the inside. Because also sometimes people forget that as African people, we work very spiritually. You know, everything comes from inside, everything comes from our ancestors. So when we do work, we awaken those people, we're awakening our ancestors. We are not just petite. You know, we are very grounded. So that groundedness is actually shown on stage because that's who we are. And this is something that we're trying to bring it back to our work because it has been taken, nobody has taken it away. We grew into it and we thought it was better. So right now we're just trying to be ourselves and coming out of our shells and being ourselves, which is still hard because nobody wants to accept what we're trying to shift, especially as this color. Being a director as this color already there's no respect. Being anything this color already is not something that people want to celebrate. You know, it's not only white people, even our own black people. You know, it's even worse when it's actually done by our own black people.
So
you know?
is it that? So how do we move away then from this, from the gaze, right, and from having to confront it into a space where actually we are liberating our movement practices? Because that sounds like that's actually your practice. It's about liberating movement from these legacies. And of course we've internalized those legacies ourselves. How could we not, right? They are everywhere. They are permissive. They're everywhere. So yes, we've internalized them on a great scale. So whether it's systemically in South Africa or in Nigeria, so that the arts ecology, the dance ecology does not appreciate its own legacy, its own history, or whether we personally become so indoctrinated, or whether we physically become indoctrinated and let it go for it. So how do we move from having to confront to liberating our movement practice? Kelechi.
I think it's about imagination. I think one of the main tenets of, I'll say it again, white supremacy is to suppress our imagination. I've mentioned it before, but I know Shakespeare, for whatever he was doing, he was talking about something different, but he said, to sleep perchance to dream. He was talking about something else. But I'm thinking about the fact that if we don't sleep, we don't really have a chance to dream, to think of something better. And so in the society that we live in and the communities that we're in, most people that would probably share this kind of body and gender with me specifically are having to work and work and work in order to just have a life. So what time do they have to rest? And therefore, what time do they have to dream so they can imagine something different? And so that is also a part of this. We do not have enough space to rest. The Nat Ministry, speaks about it. Like we don't have enough of a chance to rest, and rest is also a part of movement. Like if you look at different practices, stillness is still a part of the movement. So much happens in stillness. We're not afforded it, so we don't have the space to imagine something different. So when we say that, if I'm going to confront something, I have to have an alternative proposition to that thing. I don't have to have it fleshed out, but I have to have an alternative proposition. If I do not have time to figure out what that proposition is, even the seed of that proposition, because I don't get the time to rest, then how do I? And so robbing us of rest is to rob us of imagination, so we don't think of anything different. So we say, well, this is the way that it needs to be. That's not to say that people aren't creating incredible work that is imaginative, because they are. But more people need to be able to see that. So I wonder if it's about confronting, because to confront this particular thing this way means to still center that view, to still center, Usman Sembène talked about, Europe is not my center. Why be a sunflower and turn towards the sun when I myself am the sun? And I think it's us being imaginative enough to remember that we are the sun. Even if we think about specifically black cultures and how it's commodified for the mainstream, or there was that thing on TikTok where the black TikTok dancers went on strike because their dances kept being taken by the white TikTok dancers, and they were getting the deals, they were getting the notoriety, so they just stopped dancing, and they were withholding their labor. But it wasn't for them, it wasn't even labor, it was just their creativity. It's like, I'm not going to keep providing you your life force, I'm not doing it. So I'm not saying that we withhold, but I'm just saying that maybe we just stop trying to have the conversation centering in that way, and taking time to really think about, okay, what is it when I allow my imagination to run free? What is it that I want to do? How do I want to dance? Because that also means that we have to interrogate our metrics around success. So what Mamela was saying there about like having the internal integrity as well. We don't dance. It's so easy, I guess, to dance from an external space, where you have to dance, when you have to really go internally to draw out what it is that you want to express. That's also possibly why we were moved away from it, as well as our indigenous spiritual practices, because it's so evident that there's power in it. When I see somebody dancing from the inside, dancing from their histories, their ancestry, their passions, like their pain, their hurt, their joys, their hopes, their ambitions, their dreams, it hits different. I don't need to know what the name of the move is that they've just done, but I know that I felt that. That's powerful, when people in that space all of the time.
Yeah, incredibly powerful. Thank you. Mamela, how do we liberate our movement practices?
How do we liberate? I think sometimes you liberate yourself to say that you can do it all. You can do it all, but you just choose how to do it. You're actually saying, I can do yours and do mine at the same time. So meaning that it's about time that they also learn from us. We are always learning from the other. We never learn from ourselves. Like you're saying, we are the sun. We are the sun. Sometimes we might think we are not teaching, but then whatever we do is never taken seriously. But when it's done by somebody else, it's bigger and better, which is exactly what is happening when we do things. But at the same time, it's also to say we can do it better as well. You know, not to limit ourselves
Yeah.
just because we are different, to actually show that we can, but we're just gonna do it our way.
Yeah.
You know, because everything else has been done.
Yeah.
It's just how we do it today,
Yeah.
and not actually being stuck in different traditions. Because if you talk about the classics as well, they've been here 300 years ago, and we're still doing it again today. Nobody says it's cliche.
Yeah.
Shakespeare is still done today. Nobody says it's cliche.
Yeah.
Once you bring your history from your mothers, from your grandmothers back in the days, it's cliche.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
because we've been doing, it's like we've been seeing these words. We grow up seeing them. Everybody's doing it. It's like all these big names of these English names or whatever, big names. Shakespeare, the ballets, big ballets from back in the days.
Yeah.
But you bring a story back in the days as African, like where we go back to our mothers, because it's culture too. They used to be having no tops, bare-chested, you know. But then when you do it today, you are called, it's cliche, it's playing to the gaze, it's like it's nudity. But when it's the other being nude is accepted.
Yeah. No, that's
But my body being nude is exotic.
Yeah.
And then to a point, it's like, yes, I am exotic. Yes, I'm beautiful. But you're also exotic when you come to South Africa.
Yeah.
Because you also give us the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm used to the European work or the UK work, or it's actually similar, you know? Because I can also say it's cliche. So the same way you say it's cliche, it's typical African. I can say it's cliche, it's typical UK.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to open up now to the audience. If you have any questions, comments, or provocations, we do have a roving mic.
Hello. Oh, okay. Hi, my name's Jasmine. I'm a movement artist and creative based in East London. It was so nice to hear your comments about everything you said, like about the body politics and how you take that in your everyday practice. I wanted to ask, how do you essentially like push past like thinking about your body in predominantly white spaces? Like, how do you not see yourself as an obstacle, or when someone has told you, you know, this isn't right, like you're a black woman, you're black this, you shouldn't be doing this? Because I'm a dancer and I went to a predominantly white dance conservative, so that was really hard for me doing ballet and me being judged by my body. Like, I had teachers literally make fun of me doing ballet, and it was really difficult to like get through the course. And I didn't have any support, like literally no support. If I tried to talk to someone, they wouldn't really do anything. They'll just be like, oh, okay, you know. So how do you push past the body politics in the work that you do today? And yeah.
Thank you for sharing
Thank you.
that. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm sort of saddened and not surprised to hear so many like nods of acknowledgement to the experience that you had as well, because I think it's incredibly common. Mamela, would you like to take that question?
Well, you should come join Hatched. There you go. You should come join Hatched. We're creating space for our bodies, you know, in these classes, you know. And basically, also myself, I've been there, also performing around the world. I've been told many things, you know, that I didn't expect to see that from you. I didn't expect you to dance this way. But you know what? You just have to push it. Because at the end of the day, they're trying to demoralize you, to actually continue doing the artistic work, because you have challenged them, you have confronted them, you know. So the fact that they're actually saying that there's something that you need to actually you should need to grow up to, there's a seed growing within you, and they see it. They're trying to dim your light. So you need to actually get out there and continue doing you, because you're always going to be challenged. So it's about just getting out there and doing you, because there will be those negativity things happening out there, negativity, comments, critiques, everything. I got used to them. I just don't give a hoot. Yeah, I just continue doing what I'm doing. I think I'm where I am today because I never actually allowed that to put me down. I actually was like, okay, if I can't actually go and be a feather on stage. Let me just go and be an ostrich on stage. You know? So if I can be a swan, let me be an ostrich on stage, because then it's an African bird at least. So it's like you always try to fight those within yourselves. I know it's hard, and it can actually take you to a dark space, but you need to actually motivate yourself, because you need to tell yourself you're a beautiful black woman, you can do this better than them. Because if you see your bodies when you do ballet, you become better. You're just so muscular, you're like horses on stage, you know? Like, you're so muscular. So sometimes we need to celebrate what we have, because people who have told us that we cannot do this, it was just trying to put us down. Because now we're playing with it. You've got it, you know, with the ballet, whatever you've started, you've got it. Just go out there and make a statement about it. Talk about it. That's what, that will heal you. That will release something saying, I actually did it, I gave it back, I put it back to them. Turn it upside down.
And finding your people as well, I think is part of that. That's what you're saying about joining Hatched. Finding your people.
Finding your people, you know. Maybe Hatched is going to be global, where we actually take all women who are black to actually join us on stage, you know. But then because I'm still black, I still have to prove myself. But if you get somebody else not black, this could have been a ballet for the world. But it's still ballet for little dingy theatres. At least this one is big, and the others in Europe,
We can't say dingy anymore. Kelechi, anything you'd like to offer?
Yeah, I think this goes beyond just dance, because it's not just in dance that you have to deal with obstacles being being in a black body, right? And so I think what has really helped me to kind of show up in the world in the way that I show up, that some people might call unapologetic, is that I've come to realize that all of this is made up. None of this is real. The repercussions of certain things are real, like money's not real. But the repercussions of not having it in this made up pretend thing that we're doing, those repercussions are real. The consequences of not playing this game is real. So people just decided, especially if we're going to go to specifically around 1735, when Carolus Linnaeus wrote Systema Natura, and he was like, oh, you know, because he named some dinosaurs, they were like, why don't you name some humans, right, during the Enlightenment period, when they didn't enlighten themselves about anything. But he was like, oh, well, this is the Homo Afer, black people, and this is the Homo Europaeus. And the Homo Europaeus, you know, they're beautiful, they're so smart, they move gracefully, but this is the Homo Afer, like, they steal, they're ugly, they're not smart, all of those things. And then those categories essentially stuck, right? And even though we had the transatlantic slave trade and all of these things happening, the trading of us as people already happening, that helped to ramp it up quite a bit. And so we should think about that, how our bodies were commodified in order to provide entertainment. The human zoos, the Sarah Bartman, as they called her, our bodies were already seen in that way, right? And the fact that her labia was on show in France, was it, for how many years? That just goes to show you how black women's bodies are viewed in the Western, as you want to call it, world. So it's understanding that people decided a state of superiority. Then they decided who, the strata, like where everybody else would fall into. For it to continue, I have to agree to play the game. I have to agree that we are all in the fever dream of men who have long gone, specifically men who have long gone, yet we are continuing to participate. So it takes a deconditioning of self to be like, I'm not playing along anymore. I'm not ugly. I'm not playing along. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm not doing it. And I think that that's what it has to come to. And I think in doing that, you liberate yourself. There's a part of your brain, your psyche, that opens up in terms of possibilities available to you. Because like Mamela said, I'll just go and do this then.
Yeah, the space that opens up.
Yeah,
I'm just decide not to engage.
I'm just not gonna.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, and then you can find ridicule. I mean, right now, we're having this conversation and we're seeing the politics around other people's bodies taking place on a global scale, where we're like, oh, it's what we're complicit. We're agreeing that these groups of people can be killed because of how you've decided the worth on their bodies. So it's not just us. there's something bigger at play. And again, people are pushing back, going, I'm not agreeing, I don't want to play this game anymore. So there has to come a point, I think, where you have a funeral for yourself, the self that's trying to fit into what you believed your life would be if you could play the game. And then once that funeral happens, you can actually start living and be like, well, I'm not playing the game, I'm going to do my thing. And then I think that your body moves more freely because your mind has kind of moved through this tunnel that was never really there in the first place.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you. Another question or comment? Yes.
Thank you both for what you're sharing with us. I had two sort of connected questions. The first one is curiosity around what you're both doing to nourish and resource your bodies. And connected to that, if you might say something more about how you care and find rest with your bodies too.
Great question. Thank you very much. Let's start. Mamela's on for a strategic interval.
No, that's hard. How do we take care of ourselves? It's difficult because also having traveled a lot and perform, sometimes you open yourself to a whole lot of strangers.
Sorry.
And how do you come back to reality and being yourself? That's a tough one because when you go on stage, you evoke many things. You evoke many emotions. You are awakening many spirits as well. And also when you go back home, you're still high. When do you really go down and shut down? I shut down. I don't do anything. You won't see me. If I was away, you won't see me do anything maybe for a week, even 2 weeks at times. And then I come back to life. I shut down because I'm there. I'm reflecting. I met many people and I'm trying to take care of my well-being, body, everything mentally, physically, spiritually, all of that is just you taking care of it. And of course, if you have a loving partner, it's great to cuddle as well. So, but at the same time, you need to take care of yourself. I just shut down. I shut down to the world. And I think this is also another thing that people don't understand about artists. Let me speak for myself. For me, I feel like when I've just done a tour or performance, I'm good at shutting down. I am not everywhere. You won't see me everywhere. You might think if you see me on social, I'm out there. I'm not everywhere. And you're not going to see me at all, actually, unless I want to go out. So I listen to my heart, I listen to my body, I listen to myself. I can not even answer the call because I don't want to. So I shut down completely. That's how I come back to reality. Yeah, and take care of myself. Especially the West now with the 15 young people I'm working with.
And that speaks really beautifully to what you were saying earlier on actually about the power of rest, right? And the kind of the political nature of rest and the necessity of rest beyond just like, yes, it's nice to have a nap. Big fan of a nap. But actually, rest as resistance, as Audre Lorde said. So, what do you do for nourishment and resourcing?
I run quite a bit. So some people might not see that as rest, but we're all different, right? And so I try to get out every morning, and to me, running is my prayer. So when I'm out, it's just me with the pavement, whatever. And as much as I say mean things about London and Britain, I love that. That brings me back to self, like being in my body, thanking spirit for my lungs, for my heart. It's my time to center and to move the excess energy that I don't need to be carrying in myself. For instance, for me personally, I do a lot of spiritual work in terms of Yoruba spirituality and tarot and things like that. So I take on a lot of people's energy. So I have to be able to move it out of myself. So aside from cleansing, baths, really enjoying baths and doing all of that stuff, I need to go out and move energy out of my system. So when I've made some of my video essays over the past few years, one would see that I do them after a run because my mind is more clear, and then I would be able to say whatever is in my heart that day. And I think that's even part of my nourishment, being able to say what's in my heart, what's on my heart to say. We've seen recently research that says that Black women are disproportionately more so affected by autoimmune diseases because of the way that they repress or suppress anger. And obviously the body will store that somewhere. So it's no surprise that this is happening. So for our own sake, it's important to find a way to get out what we shouldn't be holding in. Therapy is great for that. If we're talking about practical terms, don't have therapy. Friends, I think my friends also are that source of nourishment, because I think everywhere else I'm meant to be this mind, this great thinker, whereas my friends, I could just be silly, then we're not expecting, of course you can have deep conversations with friends, but you can also just not as well. And you mentioned, Mamela, about even having a partner and cuddling and going through this period of life, having divorce and things like that. Actually, where I find that I prioritize physical touch is getting massages often as well, to actually have that, have the massages, have that therapy as well. And controversially, because I think it needs to be said more, and it's not, psychedelics. Right? So because I don't think we actually talk about that enough, and the research that's being done around plant medicine that's actually helping people to work through trauma so they have more space in themselves, in their hearts, in their minds, to be who they were meant to be before their trauma. Lives are stolen, snatched away, so much so because of trauma or many traumas. And I think that plant medicine is helping people to move through that and find their way back to themselves. And I think that's one of the most nourishing things, the day and the days that you get to actually meet yourself.
Thank you very much. And I think we've got time for one more comment or question.
I wanted to congratulate you on the journey you've come through and the tough times you've had, because you defeated all your adversaries, and I just think you're brilliant. Well done.
Thank you.
Beautiful words of praise. Thank you. Mamela, I'm going to ask you very, very briefly, by way of kind of wrapping up. The show Hatched Ensemble is on this evening and for another 3 nights, so 4 nights in total. I don't want you to tell us everything about the show, but in this context, what would you like people to if people are coming to the show, what would you like them to bring with them?
To actually appreciate the work by Black woman from South Africa with little resources, but she managed to put up a show like this and come to a Barbican Theatre and interpret it in how they want to. And just appreciate it, because it comes from a lot of tears, lots of stuff, little resources that we had to create that work. Thank you.
And Kelechi, how about you? What would you like people to take from this evening's conversation?
Take yourselves, find yourselves, keep yourselves, love yourselves. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. A massive thanks to Dance Umbrella for hosting this conversation. It's been a joy to be on a platform with these 2 incredible women. Thank you to the Barbican for holding this event, and thank you to the British Council as well for the support for the festival. And have a fabulous evening. Be the sun, be the ostrich, be yourselves, and have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.